it look like to have an integrated Earth intelligence system across our sectors, national and continental-wise? It would mean that all of these decisions, all of this planning would take into account Earth observation, Earth intelligence resources. While we use this data from land, air, and space, which we have obtained through open source, commercial, and other corporations, we are using high computing mechanisms to digitize and visualize our analysis. We are incorporating knowledge from our societies as well as evolution behavior for humans. Such a tool incorporated in all of our government and intergovernmental activities would be powerful. It would be a tool that would enable predictions that have not been seen in the past decade at least. We can all agree that Earth intelligence is now growing towards a boom. We are headed towards a peak, but I would like you to walk with me through a journey that may likely lead to a crisis and how we can prevent this. So let's have a thought process on a perfectly integrated Earth intelligence system in all of our government sectors across, let's use Africa as a case study, across all of the entire continent. The past few days have at least demonstrated to us, myself as well, I have been trying to generate statistics of the sources of data, the tools that are available, the applications, and there were many. The list is still growing. So let's assume for a moment that we have integrated perfectly and we have either connected tools, or we have put all of them in one pool and they're easily accessible to all these planning and marketing agencies on the continent. We would be able to see where we don't necessarily have to go. We would be able to predict things we haven't imagined on scales that are beyond what we are imagining now. Let us also discuss the risks that have come on this podium, at least since the past few days. We have discussed a number of risks or a number of challenges happening in Earth intelligence. I will highlight a few. There is currently a saturation of open source tools. And I say that in good faith. There are many, we are making use of them, but we are headed towards a saturation. These tools are ready for use, pre-processed, pre-analyzed, just ready for use. As another challenge that has been highlighted is data compatibility. Even within one organization, there are a number of tools. Then move on to more suppliers, and then you have data which you're not able to merge. Or at least you have to put in effort. But remember, you did not co-develop these tools. We have listened to people speak about models where assumptions were made, and these assumptions were not exactly accurate. This is natural to every scientific process. As a scientist myself, I know that this is something that is done. But walk with me as we imagine this very strong and powerful integrated tool and the scale to which each of these challenges will be enhanced. A number of our presenters here have spoken about errors which arise from models that are either experimental or are still under development, but we are already using. We have tools whose validation procedures are not clear because we are usually in a crisis, and asking the question of how did you validate this tool is not a priority. Our Earth intelligence requirements are continuously evolving, and that means that our tools have to demonstrate that evolution, which at the moment is not being demonstrated. And please, I have to keep adding that I'm stating this so you can walk with me on this thought process. I am a user of these tools as well. And these are not coming just from me, also from other presenters that were here and players in the sector. We have experienced colleagues talking about numerous sources of data, large amounts of data which are mostly not current. If you took note of our presentations, you would see that the latest images that were being shown were 2022. And the rate at which Earth intelligence needs are evolving, that is not current. Yesterday, a speaker spoke about the gap in in-situ data. We witnessed technology that is being presented to us with revisit times on the scale of weeks, with resolution in tens of meters. Each of the institutions that I mentioned that provides these services that we will integrate in this powerful Earth intelligence tool for national decisions has strategic directions. It has objectives. And even though they may not be directly contradicting with what other entities may want, there is need for harmonization. The environment we are talking about, if you remember my colleague from Uganda, he spoke about erratic rains. We are talking about conditions that we consider to be erratic because our predictions or our imagination did not take that into account. So those are just a few of the challenges that have been highlighted so far, and some that you may have experienced in this Earth intelligence technology. So as we imagine this perfectly integrated, powerful tool, which governments and continents are making use of to make decisions, to make budgets, to establish organizations, to write strategies, let us also add the lack of Earth intelligence policies. As we stand and sit here, very few of us can agree that very few of us can confirm that you actually have a guideline or regulation for Earth intelligence in your organization, in your country, in your institution. Even if it is just for research as a university, what guidelines do you follow? Let us also add to that thought process a phenomenon that I found interesting, climate anxiety. Research has been done to show that the way in which we are communicating this risk, which we are observing through Earth intelligence mechanisms, has caused a psychological issue called climate anxiety. It has been estimated, based on research, that 65% of young people between the ages of 25 to 45 are experiencing this climate anxiety. I invited you on this thought process. So these 25 to 45 young people are the ones who are directly dealing with this Earth intelligence tool. They are the CEOs, they are the researchers in universities, they are the policy makers. If not today, they will be in the next 5 years. They are the decision makers, they are the people allocating budgets, and they are the people pushing for this powerful, integrated Earth intelligence tool, and we are imagining it across the entire continent. So, as we continue on this thought process, imagine the boom that Earth intelligence will have, because no more shall we have the challenges where our regulators don't understand what we are doing, they are not budgeting, they are not. Now we will be the people doing these things, and we will be pushed and fueled by climate anxiety. So we will have a boom of Earth intelligence, and everything will seem to be falling in line. Decisions will be made perfectly, predictions, agribusiness will improve. And then just like the financial system, there will be a crisis. There is a potential crisis. I'm not saying it has to be that way. And you will see as I continue on this thought process with you. So, we are talking about a perfectly integrated Earth intelligence system for national understanding and possibly on a continental level. The demand for Earth intelligence products, services, and tools will increase exponentially through this boom. In this Earth intelligence boom, imagine that everyone will be leaning on Earth intelligence products to make decisions, even some that are just for recreational purposes. There will be a high demand on predictions, unprecedented demand that we have not imagined. If we are talking about months and weeks now, people will want predictions on a scale of seconds. Now, with machine learning and models, because when this boom comes, we will not have prepared for it. It will be a demand, cause and effect situation. So we will be having the same tools, at least similar tools to what we have now, similar models to what we have now, a more or less same amount of data that we have now in terms of categories and nature. Therefore, we will push these models to perform to predictions on a scale of a second. For all scientists here, you know that your error bar can be short, but once you push the predictions beyond what you anticipated the model to do, the errors start to become big. This will become problematic because big decisions will have already been made. I work for government. Decisions, most of the decisions, analysis is done beforehand. Planning is done beforehand. So turning around such decisions and explaining that, oh, wait a minute, I did not take into account that I was just using a statistical model, there was an error, will be late. Explaining it will be problematic. People will lose their jobs. And I'm working with you on this thought process of a perfectly integrated Earth intelligence tool for our continent. So, the errors will increase, prediction will be pushed to the limit. All of this will continue to be fueled by the fear of the future. Part of this fear is the scales to which we are predicting. I was speaking to an elder in our family concerning some of these immunizable diseases. She's in her 70s, and she said, you know what, these diseases were there. My grandmother said they used to come and go. And said, so how did you deal with them? She said she didn't tell me exactly how, but it wasn't the first time when we were young. Although now, we noted that there was intervention, which helped. So, it could be that the issue, one of the issues is the scale. If you think about an example such as space weather, if you decided to micro-predict the activities of the sun, you would not get the scale which you would get on a cycle of 11 years. And this is not our problem. We only have as much information as we have available to us. So, let us leave the gloomy part of the challenges and the potential crash and crisis of the perfectly integrated Earth intelligence system. And also highlight the fact that usually we would run to the private sector and say, wait a minute, the tools we are using, they are not predicting as we hoped, bail us out. But as you have witnessed, the private sector will be right with us in this boom and crisis because we are all using similar or interchangeable tools, models, and platforms. So, we have imagined this perfectly integrated Earth intelligence system for our continent. We have thought through the potential crisis it could create. Obviously, as I said, it is a powerful tool. And now we have to also think about the way in which it would operate. I hope that there might be more sessions that will capture this but so far we have not spoken about the issue of cybersecurity. Once this platform is perfectly integrated, it will have to operate in a way that it has to be accessible, online, offline, any geographic location. That would mean high dependence on cloud computing and internet. That becomes a successability point, and please continue imagining with me what can happen when an entire continent is using a perfectly integrated Earth intelligence platform that has been compromised. I hope that has not yet happened, because many of our tools crisscross each other at one point or the other. So, I have painted that picture for you. And I hope that it is a vivid picture in your mind, so that as we discussed potential ways to mitigate, you will continue to work with me. Don't stop at the gloomy picture. So I would like to make a proposal, a call to action for this conference, that we consider coming up with Earth intelligence M&E frameworks. This does not have to be done on a continental level, but if you're using Earth intelligence for your institution, for your university, for your government entity, for your company, I hope that you have a framework in which you are assessing and evaluating these tools to see how they align with your strategies, and you're doing this on a routine basis. So I will give my proposal basing on national, using a nation as a standard. I would propose an M&E framework for Earth intelligence products, services, and tools that, number one, takes into account those challenges that I mentioned, along with others that we know or might come along. This is supposed to be implemented on a quarterly basis for ministries or other smaller entities, and on an annual basis for a nation. And this framework is supposed to check a number of aspects, and I will propose a few here. The first one is localized reference frames. And this is a discussion we've had from day one here. We need to be proactive in terms of this M&E on how we are infusing localized reference frames. We need to have a mechanism for which we are checking validation for tools, models, and all the information that we obtain, whether it is tier one research and development. I know that sometimes it is mentioned this is an experimental tool, but there has to be a mechanism to explain that further. There has to be a proactive and intentional effort in infusing indigenous knowledge and historic data, not just referring to it as something that confirmed what the prediction model brought into account. So it's supposed to come beforehand, not as an afterfact. There is a need for emphasis on low-cost data generating tools, and this cuts across even the space sector. If the data generating tools are too expensive and they take a long time to make, there is need to now to inject and put emphasis on high altitude platforms, low-cost drones. We can get data that would help in this validation. My colleague from the Kenya Space Agency yesterday highlighted the matter of code development, and it should not just stop at being mentioned. It should actually be a mechanism for testing. If a government is going to consume a tool, it is the same way our governments now are checking what is the local content of a company, how are they taking into account the persons with special needs. That should also be a parameter in a tool. Was this code developed and by whom? If it is Malawi, then I know that my brother in Malawi will know what I need to do when I'm going to the back end of the tool. There is a need in this M&E framework, there's a need to capture the stages at which verification and validation of these tools is being done and how they are being rolled out. There's an interesting aspect that we are not discussing. When we talk about wise use of resources, natural resources, we tend to stop on ground. And I have had discussions with a few colleagues in the space sector, and we want to invite you to also discuss the green technology in space, because we are saying we have a lot of in situ data from satellites, and we are using this to keep our trees on the ground and to make sure that our land is used in a way that will enable us to move from one generation to another and survive in a healthy way. However, these same satellites are causing an opposite effect in space. Space is a natural resource. And so there's need for harmonization for what we are calling sustainable use or wise use of natural resources of Earth. I would go ahead and propose an incorporation of alternative sources of data. As someone who has moved from, I was a student who would move from one faculty to another at every stage, and my credits would have to be transferred. I learned that there are some terminologies, or there are some scientific techniques that we were taught while in undergraduate. And when I reached at least master's level, I was required to unlearn them and learn new ones. And this is typical in astronomy or astrophysics. So you're told gravity behaves this way, light behaves this way on Earth. Please, this is what you will be examined on. And once you start the postgraduate level, you're told, no. Light behaves a different way. Gravity behaves a different way. Just unlearn what you learned and start afresh. So with that in mind, you find that there are aspects in space weather or astronomy that can show components of Earth intelligence that we have not considered. I happen to use astronomical data to observe space debris. It is something that you don't hear a lot because it's astronomical data. What does it have to do with weather or land use? So I would like to propose that these M&E frameworks take into account alternative sources. Has this tool used different sources of data? We know even just frequencies. If you look through one lens, you see one way. You look through another lens, you see more or different from the way you were seeing through a different frequency band. So we need to have an all-round approach for Earth intelligence tools. I would also like to add an aspect in this M&E framework that deals with real issues that affect our communities. I'm not saying that increasing yield is not a real issue, but why do you want to increase yield? So that people can consume food. Why should people consume food? For their well-being. If that food is not nutritious, then your increase in yield is not going to meet your objective. This is the purpose of an M&E, because for it comes on ground to your objectives as an institution. It's not just the nice tools and the nice images that we get. It puts in another layer, and we cannot hand over this responsibility and say it is for the implementers. As the custodians of these institutions, it is our job to make sure that food nutrition is taken care of, agricultural supply chain is taken care of, because that's actually the root cause of lack of food. Crime is prevented, so we have to reach the actual objective. The objective is not looking and making sure that you can see what is going on. It is solving problems, and that is what an M&E pushes all of us to do. So, once we have a workable guideline for our institutions, then we are able to have adoption techniques for Earth intelligence. We are able to walk the journey that as Earth intelligence and integrating Earth intelligence in our national outlook. As it advances, then we are walking this journey along with the technology, bringing back feedback to improve and make it better. I hope that this has been an interesting thought process that I took you through. I would like to conclude my keynote speech by saying that Earth intelligence integration is indeed necessary. We cannot go away from it. It is going to be critical for national and international decisions. It is a tool that will even go ahead and affect geopolitics. It is a tool that will help us see where we are not able to go. So we want it to work, and we want the integration to be in terms that meet or are aligned with our strategies and our objectives. Therefore, I look forward to further discussions on this proposal and others that you may have. This does not have to be a resolution from Rcmrd or Afrigeo. This is actually a plea that as we go back, we put some thought into the extent to which this integration is solving our problems and how we can make it better. Thank you for your time.
So thank you so much, Dr. Gaba, and thanks the audience for listening to her. So that was a good address. So now we switch gears to the parallel session, the panel discussions. So I would like to call upon the following to occupy the front seats, since our moderators is here. Okay. So I would like to call upon Dr. Atukunda Judith. So I would like to call upon Dr. Judith Atukunda to get her seat. I've seen her. Then Miss Mary Makwate from Geospatial Girls and Kids. Kindly occupy the front seat. We have Dr. Betty Mulianga from Vihiga County. Kindly take the front seat. And then we have Miss Priscilla Niokwiringirwa. So kindly take the front seat. So our moderator is here. So before we start the discussions, we would like to take some few questions regarding the just completed address. So I'll hand over to Madam Rose, who will proceed with the moderation for this session.
Good morning. How are we this morning? We started on a very high note, Earth intelligence integration. I'm pleased to see every one of us here. I would say north of Limpopo, south of the Sahara. That lingo is okay with us? Are we together? We should be smiling. It's chilly, but yes. Okay. Thank you very much for this. Any questions for the keynotes? Kindly, let's not lock you out. Maybe one question for Dr. Gaba. So I'm usually a trainer. No questions means either of two things. Very well understood or nothing was understood. So which one is it? Awesome, well understood. Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Dr. Atukunda Judith from International Land Commission. I'll read her short biography. She is a professional in land surveying and geomatics and joined ILC. Yes, please. Have a seat. Thank you. She's just joined ILC. Welcome. As the Africa Data Lead, she has a strong background in the field and has been at the forefront of advocating for positive changes in land governance practices in Uganda. Her impactful leadership includes coordinating the Uganda Land Observatory, where she has played a pivotal role in driving advocacy efforts to promote transparency, accountability in land investment. Her contributions extend to supporting the development of the National Spatial Guidelines for integrating data from certificates of customary ownership into the Uganda National Land Information System, her commitment in shaping national policies for enhanced land tenure security through strengthening the land data ecosystem. Combining her technical proficiency with a passion for advocacy, Dr. Judith is poised to leverage data-driven insights to drive evidence-based decision-making and foster sustainable land governance practices across Africa. Still as a data lead, she sets her invaluable contribution to ILC's Africa goal for championing inclusive and sustainable land governance practices for the benefit of all. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Yes, please, you can give her a hand. That's quite an accolade. Thank you. Next, we are going to invite Miss Marie Makwate from Geospatial Girls and Kids, Cameroon. I will not call myself very young, but Marie is very loud on the internet in terms of her passion. I don't know if there's anyone who does not know Miss Marie from the geospatial sector. That's a no. So she recently joined a humanitarian OpenStreetMap team as a senior associate in disaster services and training. She's a PhD candidate and researcher in geomatics at the Ministry of Scientific Research and Innovation in Cameroon, and her work focuses on using computer science in GIS for environmental management. She is the founder of Geospatial Girls and Kids, whose mission is to promote the field of geospatial through kids and girls in Africa. She previously worked as a GIS consultant for UNECA and WRI, and is passionate about climate change, disaster management, spatial analysis, and geo-artificial intelligence. Through the use of remote sensing and GIS, she's able to integrate practical skills and knowledge to solve environmental problems. She is a keen advocate for sustainable development and dreams of inspiring communities in geospatial science and technology for capacity building and development in developing countries. Welcome, Ms. Marie. Thank you. Next, I'm going to invite Dr. Priscilla, yeah, I'm African, but yeah, Niyokwiringirwa. Is she here with us? Okay. So I will invite Dr. Betty Alosa from Vihiga County to the stage, kindly. Dr. Betty is a Chief Officer for Agriculture in the County Government of Vihiga in Kenya. She holds a PhD in remote sensing and ecosystem modeling and has released a number of publications, including a yield prediction model, a cropping practices and characterization model, a soil erosion model, early warning, everything modeling and not mentioned. And she uses remote sensing and in-situ data. She's in a privileged position where she embraces the theme Earth, Our Home, strategically to develop sustainable development at the county level and beyond. Thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Tobias is with us? Okay. With the risk of not being gender biased, I believe we are in a very awkward position this morning, spanning from yesterday. But let me just confirm that we did have a gentleman as part of the panel. Unfortunately, he has not arrived yet. So we are going to proceed. And first, I'd like to ask the panelists of any comment from the keynote that was given by Dr. Gunda. Any 1 3-second comment on what was discussed on Earth intelligence. I'll start with you. feedback? Yeah.
Good morning, all. I'll say that from the keynote address, I picked out something very important, that we should not stop at the image, but rather we should digest it to get information out of it so that we can be able to find solutions, to create scenarios that will provide interventions, even in our effort to be able to make our world our home.
Thank you very much, Dr. Beatty. I'll go to the first question, and I'd like you to introduce, now that you already started, Dr. Beatty, your institution and mandate at the county. Thank you.
I'll say that Vihiga County is located in the western region of Kenya. In that very place, we border the Rift Valley, we border Siaya, Kisumu, and Kakamega. So that places us at a very strategic area, because then we are bordering various agroecological zones, which determine even the marginal characteristics of the landscape of Vihiga. That has also been able to help us really be able to determine even the agro-tourism areas. Vihiga County is headed by one geospatial leader in this country and the region, who is His Excellency Dr. Wilbur Otichiro. Most of us know him. He was one time the Director General of this place. Now, that tells us that we are led by somebody who understands the geospatial technologies, their solutions, and how we should be able to use them to integrate into our spaces and be able to form solutions for our communities. Vihiga has a mission to be able to transform the community of the county into a prosperous county by formulating and implementing good governance and development systems. Through this, we have various pillars that we depend on and that guide us along so that we can be able to develop the same solutions spatially and temporally for our generations. In this case, when we focus on the SDGs, we look at the environmental conservation and protection. We have been able to develop an environmental policy, agro-environmental policy, that insists that we should be able to plant trees that are able to yield fruits, and those fruits should be able to provide nutrition to our communities, that is looking at the pillar for health and nutrition. And as we do that, we are able to georeference all the trees that we are growing in the time. And we are also promoting apiculture within those trees, the orchards, so that we ensure no one is encouraged to go and cut them down, because they are able to harness honey from the same orchards. And therefore, we're looking also at the safe water and sanitation provision, which is environmentally acceptable. So through this, we are able also to locate where all our sanitary areas are, sanitation areas are, where our clean waters are. The boreholes, we've been able to map all the boreholes. We've been able to map all the rivers. We've been able to map potential areas for aquaculture within the county. We also have used the Earth observation information to be able to map all our health facilities. Why? Because even though we're looking at the Earth, our home, we should be able to take care of our health systems. And therefore, we are providing health facilities at a distance of 2 kilometers from the community. So everyone is able to access health facilities within a 2-kilometer radius. Can I stop there? I think too much. Thank you.
Thank you for that comprehensive and yes, in acknowledgement of Dr. Otichilo's service to Rcmrd and the member states. I appreciate the fact that you've touched on both the ecosystem and delivery of services to the people. So if you talk about a 2-kilometer radius of the health facilities, I'm sure when it comes to early childhood, when it comes to primary school, there's a cascaded effort in which to address this. And at the same time, looking at Earth as our home, if we're talking about the trees within Kakamega and the fact that you can get, you know, the support services and other services in terms of ecosystem services and still maintain that ecological structure, that's quite commendable. Thank you very much, Dr. I'll invite Marie to respond to the same about geospatial girls and kids.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the question. Yeah, so I'm going to talk as a founder of Geospatial Girls and Kids today. So what is Geospatial Girls and Kids? Geospatial Girls and Kids is like an initiative found by us because in the space or in the STEM domain, we just noticed that I just take an example of me during my way. It was so difficult to have like more women on the table. As my colleague from NASDA was presenting yesterday, I think it's a real problem. It's a real challenge that we have to face. So we decide to get an initiative where we can engage more youth and especially women in the geospatial domain. So we are based in Cameroon and Cote d'Ivoire, and we are creating a community here in Kenya with some women. And basically what we do, our activities are trainings. We are organizing trainings with students, and when we are talking about students, they are mostly students from primary and secondary school. Like, okay, when Dr. Doreen was talking about sustainability during the plenary, I was like, it's like she just read on my mind, because when we talk about sustainability, we think about the young generation. Let's imagine like in the next 15 or 20 years, we will be old. So we need to train people who will be able to sustain the domain. So in the space domain, Geospatial Girls and Kids are promoting technology through trainings. We organize boot camp. We also do a lot of workshops with kids and girls. It's true that our main target are girls, but we also work with the other genders. And our dream is like maybe next year in the Afrigeo 2025, I don't know where it will happen, to have a panel discussion like this just with students, like something organized by them, for them. At the end of the conference, they will get their own resolution, because we can't think for them. They are so smart, and we think that it's easier to leave them lead. That's why the initiative, that's why we have created this initiative. And we don't just train people, we also try to connect them to some space company all over in Africa, because it's good to train, yes. Now after the training, what next? So we try to connect them with a space company. I just invite you guys who are CEO here, if you need like some strong background in geospatial field, you are welcome. We can connect with you, our brave student who can get either a job or an internship or something like this. So basically that's what is Geospatial Girls and Kids and our mission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marie. And in recognition to that, how many of us are aware, I know we are already at the RIC, about the drawing, map, and painting competition? Pushing the same agenda, getting to introduce the young children to geospatial technology at the earliest level, so that if we are talking about shape files and we're talking about modeling, they can also understand what is my county, that's the administrative level in Kenya, or what's my district in Uganda, or what's my province, what's my area, just to understand and how it connects to Earth. Thank you very much, Ms. Marie. I'll invite Dr. Judy. Go right ahead.
Thank you very much, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to make a correction. I'm not Dr. Atkunda. I'm just Judith Atkunda, but definitely take the blessing and ready to work very hard. Yes, so I'm happy to be here. I work with an organization called the International Land Coalition, and I work there as the Africa Data Lead. ILC, the acronym, is a global alliance of civil society organizations that are working together to advance people-centered governance, land governance. So we are tasked with ensuring that communities have equal access to land resources, and that they are able, especially the vulnerable ones, the youth, like my fellow panelists have mentioned, the women, the indigenous people are able to access and use their land resources sustainably. ILC is in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, and we have quite a number of networks there. We organize at national level through our national land coalitions, and we are tasked with about 10 commitments that these national land coalitions respond to. So areas on secure land rights, diverse tenure systems, sustainable ecosystems, small-scale farmers' rights, women land rights, and a number of them, land rights defenders, to mention but a few. What we focus on through our 3 strategic objectives is to ensure that through the national land coalitions, we build strong multi-stakeholder platforms. So these are made of the private sector, civil society, government bodies, and through these platforms, we are able, across all the thematic areas that I have mentioned, to identify issues that relate to land and how we can improve policies and laws to be able to respond to the needs of the communities. Moving on to the next strategic objective, which is the one that I lead here in Africa, is to ensure that these advocacy efforts have credible data that they use to be able to amplify their voices. So we support the coalitions to collect data, to analyze that data, and then use that to inform policy. And we do that through what the initiative or land governance monitoring framework that we call LandX. I will invite you to look at that. It has quite a number of indicators at legal frameworks, implementation, monitoring outcomes of land governance initiatives, and all that that's related. Then definitely advocacy being a very big arm of the coalition, both at local, regional, through our regional platforms on pastoralism, on land rights defenders, and all the themes that I have mentioned, and ensuring that these get their way through to the global spaces. So that's what ILC does, in short, and we can have additional conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. And just recognizing the fact that between policy and action, data, especially geospatial data as linked to people, contribute to a great magnitude. Thank you for that, and looking forward to your next response in terms of how this is being done. As promised, the panel is now complete. I'll invite Dr. Tobias to introduce himself. He's a senior scientist at ICIPE, but in the interest of time, he will talk about, just give a small background of what his institution is and its mandate. Thank you. Karibu.
Hello. Yes, good morning, Rose. Sorry for being late. Sincere apologies for this important session. So good morning to everybody. So my name is Tobias Landmann, and I'm from ICIPE, International Center for Insect Physiology and Ecology. We are just down the road, by the way, if you want to grab a good coffee or something like that. So ICIPE is all about insects, and science, and is an international organization. So basically what we do, we look at it, everything has an insect angle, but the thematic areas are plant health, animal health, environmental health, and One Health, basically. So encompassing all these areas. So basically in terms of, let me say, human health and animal health, we're looking at vector-borne diseases, we're looking at vector control, we're looking at distribution of mechanisms to alleviate these kind of diseases and pests. And then in plant health, we're looking at, of course, the famous fall armyworm, stem borers, and other diseases that affect most of the cereals crops across Africa. And then in environmental health, we look at insect biodiversity, for instance, as indicators of ecosystem intactness, and trying to get that into policy and reporting for, let's say, how intact your landscape is, and how are you doing with towards achieving your status and your biodiversity goals. So in a nutshell, that's basically what ECP is all about, and you're welcome to go to the website ecp.org, the international organization, and scout out for more.
Thank you, Dr. Tobias. Next, I'll ask in no order, how does your institution contribute to understanding our home and support the quality of life through service provision? Any of the panelists can start in no order.
Okay, thank you, Rose. Geospatial girls and kids contribute to understand our world in many ways. First of all, we are involved, as I said previously, on educational outreach. So by educating girls and youth people on geospatial domain, we help them to understand our world. And when we are talking about understanding something, if you are able to map something, it means that you have understood the way. So during our training, as I was saying, we are trying to map land use, land cover, and all other features. And that's how we are trying to contribute to understand our world. We also promote, how can I say it? We also promote the integration in STEM, which is science, technology, and mathematics, and which is crucial to understand the world. So if we want to understand some mechanism, if we want to understand the system, we should have some kind of background in STEM domain. We also help by doing our activities on hackathon or other activities. We are trying to do data collection and analysis by collect some data on the field or remotely. It helps very well to understand the world we are involved in. And also in our community project, we organize a project in rural area with people who are, how can I say it, who are not exposed every day. And that helps them to use our tools and to better understand the environment. So that's basically how we contribute to engage and to understand our world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, for the county government of Vihiga, I had started by preempting, saying that we have mapped all our facilities, for example, the natural waters, the boreholes, and also being able to map the sanitation areas. We've mapped forests, we've mapped farmers. So basically, I will look at the sub-themes under that and say that in Vihiga County, we have decided that we should train our farmers on regenerative agriculture, so for sustainable solutions. And through this, we've used the GIS directorate to be able to map all our farmers, wherever they are. And the extension wing of the agriculture is now tasked to go and train farmers on soil management. So that is the topsoil. How do we manage it? The best agricultural practices, that's what they do through that particular activity. And then also, we train farmers on the issue of enhancing biodiversity because we need to protect our flora and fauna, and that one we embrace it through that. So the GIS is able to provide coordinates, and the agriculture extensionists are supposed to trace those farmers, and in the areas that we have mapped our ecosystem habitats, they are able to trace them and be able to follow up on what's happening. We also have mapped our the greenhouse. Okay, we look at the sub-theme of greenhouse gases. So we're able to map areas where we have a lot of dairy farmers so that we can be able to determine the amount of gases that are released. And this is through modeling. Because I'm a modeler, I really foster this so that we can be able to map how much greenhouse gases our farmers are emitting through their farming systems and how we can be able to manage them through carbon sequestration. Those approaches we are also fronting for them through Agriculture Department. Then we also have the Environment Department, where we're really encouraging 20% forest regeneration of every year. And through this, through the climate smart agriculture approaches and also the FLOCA programs, we are encouraging our communities to be able to develop resilience to climate change risks. I'll say that we also modeling the landscape to be able to determine where we can best promote aquaculture, inland aquaculture, and farmers are really picking it up in the lowlands, and then the toplands, we're training them on agroforestry, and we insist that we must be able to increase the forest cover.
Thank you for that. Judy?
Thank you very much. ILC is contributing to understanding our home through our climate and nature flagship. And what we do here is to support members to be able to strike a balance between securing the land rights of the communities that we serve while advancing efforts to curb climate change effects. So we have seen that quite a number of solutions to some of these effects rely on land, especially in forests, but we also understand that there are indigenous communities or people that actually have been living in these areas and deriving their livelihoods from these places. So for us to find a balance between how the communities continue to conserve these forests, but also continue to derive their livelihood. So in terms of tenure security, access, use, and sustainably managing these resources is how we contribute. But also we go ahead and monitor this through our robust climate indicators that also go with the flagship to try and see how we secure the rights of the people, but also promote the conservation of the environment. We also offer a lot of capacity building sessions, definitely through partnerships with a number of entities that have built their strength in this, for our members to understand the climate discussions, climate justice, negotiating, and all these agreements that require land as a resource, but also would potentially benefit our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judith. Over to you, Dr. Tobias.
Yeah, so you were saying the trade-offs. I think I really like that we have a similar approach where we use like systems dynamics modeling frameworks and geospatial data to look at these different trade-offs between agroforestry, the benefits, and using the landscape still to have food security for land preparation, maize, monocropping, and so on. So I think that's an important aspect. But our delving angle, as I said, is this pest and diseases and the insect science. So basically, what we do in the different countries, we do two main things. I would sum it up. One is the scale out of climate smart technologies. such as our push-pull technology, which is basically repellent to pests and diseases. At the same time, it basically makes use of residual soil moisture. So it makes basically creates a very strong agroecological systems. And so to scale out this system, we use geospatial data to see, okay, where are analogies in the landscape where you can optimize the system and where you can actually attain the maximum effect for food security. So this is where geospatial science plays an important role. The other thing is digital advisories. So basically, when we do the pest mapping or modeling, again, we make use of a lot of geospatial information. We include also weeds, like striga weeds, and also climate forecasting. So basically, we create a package of forecasting models for the next month. We then speak to the countries, to the different NARs and ministries, and when we share this data of the stresses going forward, and they come up with another data column on digital advisory. So they basically amend this table with, okay, during the tillage season, I must do land preparation XYZ, I must buy drought resilient varieties or plant them, I must do a sort of cropping system that is more rotational, and so on. So, or I must do manual plucking or weeding, just to remind the farmers. So that is then ingested into the national systems via SMS or radio or even voicemail if you don't speak the local language. So this is where basically our, I would say, geospatial data angle lies within the different countries. Overall, what we do, we don't work alone. So basically, before we do even any project on digital advisories or scaling out of integrated pest management solutions, we do liaise with the country systems to see where do we slot in. So in most cases, there's already like a forecasting system in place. Like in Rwanda, there's a nice traffic light that gives farmers an indication of what to do, and we slot under this umbrella. And we also don't do anything autark. We basically liaise with the country agricultural system and try to get their input and see whether what we actually forecasting is credible, can be validated, and fits into their requirements. So basically, these are the, I would say, framework conditions of how we use geospatial data and the pitfalls we basically aim to avoid while scaling this out to the various countries.
Thank you. Just to acknowledge the fact that from the panelists, we are getting 3 key things. Number one is that there have been strategies that have been put in place, both at national and county level and other institutions, but at the same time, we are looking at a crop of different initiatives like geospatial and kids, whereby the capacity building is being pushed at the lowest level possible. At the same time, we do have some support from institutions like a CPE, whereby data provision in a way that is more palatable to these institutions is possible. May I kindly inquire if Madam Priscilla has joined us? Noted. I acknowledge Dr. Ernest Achiampong, who is with us. Noted. And because I have been trained, I'd like to acknowledge Professor Onywere. Is he with us as well? Yes. That has been my teacher. He introduced me to the art of the geospatial science, and I'm sure a number of us render our respects to him, and the fact that he's not yet out of the game yet. He's still bringing more people into speaking the geoscience knowledge and preaching it in whichever way that would have been understood. So the next question I would ask is that for the panelists, you've done a lot in your institutions. However, my question is, what is the linkage and contribution to the national priorities? I know you've touched on that, but at the same time, how do you have the coordination mechanisms to work with other people? How are you engaging other partners in this? I'll start with Dr. Beatty. I think she's ready, very ready.
Thank you very much, moderator. On national and regional linkages, we have been able to reach out to partners, and we, first of all, from the national government, we take directives because we have some devolved and undevolved functions, yet they affect our communities. Like, for example, the mining industry, they affect our communities. And like in Vihiga, we have gold and we have other important minerals that people are mining and making money out of it. So we take directives from the national government and we cascade them down to various departments, and we implement within our counties. So we have good working relations when it comes to the non-devolved functions that are within the national government. We also receive the high personalities like the CAs and the permanent secretaries when they come along, and we, through the integrated regional department, we are able to give our services, the services to our people. We also have MOUs with research institutions, the academia, and other regional entities and partners, NGOs. So we work closely with them through such collaborations, through the contracts that we sign with them, and along the guidelines, we are able to provide and improve services to our communities. We, for example, buy the satellite images from other satellite providing organizations. For example, the Kenya Space Agency from Regional Center here, where we have an MOU, we are able to obtain satellite images and be able to utilize them to provide solutions to the gaps that we want to fill. And then also, we are able to attend forums when we are invited, regionally and also in the national government. We are able to attend such forums, and we are able to contribute what we are doing at our level, and what should be able to be done, and how the other government should be able to help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Like I mentioned earlier, that we organize through national land coalitions that are multi-stakeholder platforms that bring together quite a number of actors from different sectors to advocate on issues related to land rights and land policy. So in relation to national priorities, I did mention that we base on the demands and needs of the countries within which we operate. We are increasingly seeing demands for registration and securing of tenure for land using geospatial technologies. A lot of those needs are coming in through our members, and so we work to guide on how, for example, data that's generated through citizens' participation can find its way into the official data statistics or even frameworks. We have also seen quite a number of our countries making efforts to have national land information systems, and definitely some of them also using a lot of the technologies that are provided by even some of the members of the ILC. Quite a strong support for us here in Africa is Cadastre Foundation, that we definitely are in discussion with to see how we support the NLCs, but also the members to be able to utilize that technology responsibly and then meet the changing needs within their countries. We also have partnerships at regional level through the regional platforms. An example I can give is the one on pastoralists and another one on women land rights. So here, all the members across Africa come together and they are able, with a common goal on women land rights, identify data within the NLCs and use this to advocate for that particular theme in the different spaces at regional and at global level. So that's how we look at priorities, ensure that we are driven by the needs of the countries that we serve, and definitely create the linkages to existing technology and whatever resources they can tap into to be able to meet those needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judith. I think you've just preempted the next question I had for Dr. Tobias and Marie in terms of how do you how would you give a very brief description of how information flows in your institution, especially in recognition with the transboundary nature of resources? We know that insects are not confined in one place. So, go right ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important question. And as I said, vector-borne diseases or biodiversity is a transboundary issue. So we recognize that. You cannot have a disease stopping at a borderline and asking for people asking for a passport to cross the border. It's all integrated systems. So what we do in our strategies, we normally, first of all, as I said, we link up with the regional, with the national partners, the national agencies who are responsible for vector-borne diseases. If we're scaling out integrated pest management solutions, we have to go through the legal framework. We have to apply for the relevant licenses. And if we're scaling out digital systems underpinned by geoinformation, each country is different. And we learn so many things by scaling out this technology in the different countries. So what we normally do, we have very close linked user interactions, especially at the beginning of the project, where we invite an array of stakeholders from the technician to the director. So we reach out at every level, and then we try to juxtapose basically the existing supply and the demand that we can deliver. So in many countries, for example, there are agrometeorological advisories that include climate risk, but they do not include pests and diseases. So we make this point that pests and diseases and climate risk together are better for the national system and are better for implementing food security mitigation measures. So this is a clear strategy. And one strategy I didn't mention, something that also our sister organization is very good in, is capacity development, of course. Capacity development is part of scaling out. So we have a program right now where we go into the different countries. We do courses in so-called Earth observation, where we teach them different levels, again, from different entities, how to use geospatial data to report for biodiversity. In our case, it's insect-based. How to use spatial data to look at changes in croplands, how these croplands are related to climate change, or if they are related to climate change or soil degradation. And just by the candidates understanding then, okay, the changes in croplands are indeed because of increasing temperatures and decreasing climate, or increasing climate variability and decreasing climate trends over time. They get an understanding and they can see this in the imagery, and they take this home and try to influence the national system. All in all, I would say dealing with the different policy organs and levels and countries, it's a long-term process, as you know. It basically entails that you are doing training, but you're also building trust. Because if you're building trust, you have uptake and you have involvement of the user. And the more, if the user understands what you are basically teaching them. Because if he understands, he will trust and he will make sure there's uptake at the end of the line.
Thank you, Dr. Tobias. Marie?
Yeah, thank you, Rose. To effectively manage transboundary resources within our scope, the communication process is designed to ensure that all relevant stakeholders, include local stakeholders, are involved. So we can say that the stakeholder engagement, like regular meetings, workshop, and digital platform, are used to communicate about our activities. And those platforms are also, when we maybe do like data collection, we try to centralize all the data on a platform where everyone can take the advantage on the usage of those data. And yeah, also all our activities, we have like kind of reporting and documentation who can help maybe people who were not around, or who missed the event, to have some knowledge about what have been done. That's
thank you very much. And anyone with 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Last remark before we close the session in the interest of time.
Maybe on transboundary, I would also say that we've been able to buffer our resources across boundaries. For example, the forests and also the farmers who are living around the boundaries. So you find that when we have outbreak of diseases, then we collectively, together with the neighboring counties, institute a quarantine. We are able to address it collaboratively. So collaboration is the key word, partnership, so that we can be able to make the earth a beautiful home that we decide to be.
Thank you, Dr. Beatty. One more person.
Thank you very much. Just to emphasize the role of sustainable land governance in helping us to address challenges that are related to climate change and all the efforts that we are seeing, and indeed appreciating the role that technology and geospatial technologies are playing in helping us strengthening land rights, but also understanding the intersection between securing rights, accessing resources, using them sustainably, and responding to the changing needs within our countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Judy. Let's give a round of applause to the panelists. Kindly, I wouldn't say in your own free time, take time. All these institutions have websites, information portals that you can get more content, and take advantage of this particular time. You can reach out to them personally, either on the WebEx app or just physically stop them if there's any inquiry that was not responded to. So thank you very much, all the panelists and the representation. You may have your seats. I'd like to apologize, we are a bit late on the tea break, but before that, I would like to do some very small housekeeping. At the right, you'll find washrooms for those who are having challenges locating the washrooms, or in the two buildings, the complex buildings, and this other side on the RCTI. Let me mention where the breakout sessions are. This particular tent, we are having the, I will start with agriculture and food security now that we're going for tea. At the RCTI conference, if you take the route and then turn right, you'll pass the reception. There's directions to show you where the agriculture and food security session is. There are also ushers wearing blue hoodies. You can inquire in terms of identifying where the session is. That is where agriculture and food security. There's another room that has the disaster risk reduction in the same building just before you get to the conference room where the agriculture and food security is. For the biodiversity and blue economy, at the complex, on the left of the complex, when you're facing the complex, you'll find there's a tent with a sitting space in green, and very distinct, there's a lion at the beginning. So if you don't see the lion, you're in the wrong place for the biodiversity and blue economy. And then for data and innovations, you can take the lift, or if you're energetic enough, take the stairs to the pergola at the complex building, 3rd floor on your left as you exit the lift or the stairs in both cases. And then for the land administration and management, we are having it here. Everyone has understood the different breakout sessions. So tea is being served at the same place to the left. Kindly grab your cup of tea, and I would kindly request that in as much as the booths are there so that the sessions can begin on time, get to the breakout rooms so that we don't have a delay in the activities. At the same time, for all the presenters, moderators, rapporteurs, please be present before the sitting of the attendees. Thank you very much for your attention.